This work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey on Wednesday, June 13th, 2018. Adequate notice of this work session, regular meeting is provided as required. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation by Councilman Charles Only Jaka. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
O God, the Creator and the Redeemer of all faith, hear our supplications, and through thy infinite love and mercy, graciously grant us the strength and power in our thoughts and decisions to be for the benefit of all people at all time.
Madam Master Clerk.
Councilman Chase, Councilwoman,
Whoa.
Councilwoman Francois, Councilman Galtieri,
Here.
Mayor Kramer,
Here.
Councilman Onijaka,
Here.
Councilman Prasad,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Robinson,
Here.
Councilman Vasanella,
Here.
Councilman Wright.
For those watching, that little outburst was because Councilman Chase Max performed his attendance by walking in the door just as he was called. The commendations and proclamations, we have none. We are now on to public discussion. Do I have a motion to open the meeting for public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion on the issue. All in favor of opening for public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are open for public discussion. Anyone may come up to speak once, no yielding of time. 5 minutes per person. Please state your name and address. Go ahead, sir. If we could wait, the mic doesn't sound like the mic is on.
Testing. Hello, my name is Pedro Colville, 308 Coventry Lane, Somerset, New Jersey, 08873. What I'm going to present to you today is a co-op day called Aura. It's basically for Somerset County, and being as though Somerset County is somehow linked always to Middlesex County, it's called Aura. It's called All of Us Are Related Anyway. Our goal, pardon me, this is my first time doing this. Aura is a local community group committed to improving relationships within our community. Our goal is to bridge the generational gaps by inviting leaders and role models from our township to interact with the youth as well as the older community. We believe many of our children are disconnected from the life experience and wisdom of our role models, that our role models share, as well as our adults being disconnected from today's reality our kids face. Kids face. Aura Awareness Day will be a fun-filled day of educational events that provide opportunities for kids, children, parents, elderly, local businesses, health organizations, as well as law enforcement to enjoy food and vibe with each other in a positive interaction. I didn't get a chance to make copies for everybody.
If you just give it to the clerk, she'll make
Okay.
copies and get them out to us.
Aura Awareness Day will host tons of events, live workshops, and entertainment. Vendor services will be provided, including food, health, culture, local business, local like health organizations. There was a typo in here too because I'm sorry, but we're trying to hold it on July 28th at Neiman Williams Park from 12 to 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock rather. I submitted all the paperwork, the special events. I reserved the park, And I just came here just like to try to, you know what I'm saying, speak on behalf of, it's basically me and my friend. We just started it, but it's just something that just came up, and it's a lot going on in the community, and I think that this would like bridge the gap between the council and the community and little Tommy and older Ricky and Grandma Lucy, you know what I'm saying? Because each team will have to have an elderly person on it for wisdom, you know, each softball team, basketball team, regardless, to get them interacting, because every day we see it, like the kids don't, my era, we got up when someone older walked by, we carried bags, we did all that stuff. This generation right here, they just so, like, I think between my era, the era behind me, and then the era ahead of me, if we were to bridge that gap, it would be a lot more understanding, like for between the community and law enforcement as well. And that's my spill.
Very admirable.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, too. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Bill Connell, 25 Spring Street. How is everybody? Okay, so last weekend, or last meeting, excuse me, I witnessed what I thought was an abuse of power, and I would like to discuss it before I discuss it as a community advisor to the Open Space Committee. For those who don't really understand how this government works, the town manager serves at the pleasure of the town council. Okay, so when somebody asks him on council, what does this cost, what it is, the best he can do is answer the question and then look down the dais and say, you sure this is what you want to do? Okay, he's responsible for managing the people. He's not necessarily responsible for the goals. Okay, town council sets the goals. So with that thought in mind, last week or last meeting, you had a discussion about the statues. Now, my comments have nothing to do about the statues specifically. As I see it, Consulate Fathers was bought with town money. And eventually, I assume, somebody can correct me, that at some point when the plan is set, it's going to come before the Open Space Committee. Okay? In the meantime, we've discussed the Board of Ed, we've discussed the YMCA, we have never discussed the statue property inside the committee. And I'm deeply upset about that because I think it shows a lack of consideration for the Open Space Committee. I'm going to complain about it and even make a motion that I think it just sets a bad precedent, that I understand that the property itself, okay, is, the plan needs to be set, okay, but every intention for, any meaningful intention of that property has come before the Open Space Committee except for this one, okay? And what I witnessed is not only the presentation of the plan, which is okay, but an attempt to allocate dollars toward it, okay, before the plan was completely vetted, and that upsets me. Okay, I'm going to make I just did, actually, but I'm also going to bring it to the committee as an official item, and I wanted to give you guys a running start. Thank you.
Mr. Connell, did you look at your email today?
In the mic,
I'm
please.
saying it is an agenda item for the next open space meeting.
Really, Bob?
It's on the agenda for the next
Exactly.
open space meeting.
Okay, no, that's not what happened the last council meeting. There was an attempt to secure an approval and possibly even money, okay, for this project before it came to a committee. One that it could potentially, it may be cut away and have nothing to do with open space. But that's not what happened. The attempt is to put the plan in place before, okay, and allocate money, okay? So, yes, and I am responsible for that happening, or at least partially responsible for that happening because I requested it. So it's not an accomplishment, Robert.
I didn't say it was an accomplishment. I asked if
Okay.
you saw the agenda that was
I did.
amended that
But why
includes it
did
as
you-
an agenda item.
Okay. But it
There's
wasn't.
no whys or wherefores. I asked that simple
But
question,
you
Bill, and I asked
you
if that's
understand
an
I
answer.
just offended you? You understand I just offended you?
And I'm not saying anything other than, I'm asking a question. Did you see the agenda?
I
You said
absolutely did.
you were going to make a motion and I'm
No,
saying
no,
it's
no,
on
no.
the agenda.
What I said I was-
Gentlemen,
What I said I was going to make a motion on is the actions of council before. I'm not talking about the project itself. I'm talking about the actions of council. Okay?
Okay.
thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Tibbs.
Johnny Tibbs, 25 Parkside. I just have a question. Will there be discussions allowed for the 4236-18 ordinance? I don't want to say anything.
4236, so that
public
is
hearing.
a
It's a
second
public
reading, and
hearing.
yes, there will be time to discuss that.
The public will
separately.
be able to say certain things.
Yes, we will
Yes,
have a public session specifically devoted to that.
for that. Thank you very much, sir.
And that, for those listening, that's the capital ordinance appropriating $970,000 for the capital, basically for the architecture for the youth center. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Seeing no one come forward, Mayor, a motion to close the public portion of the meeting?
Second.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion on that. All in favor of closing public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Public discussion, general public discussion is closed. We have no I'm sorry, we do, of course we have council committee reports. Council committee reports. Mr. Wright, how'd you like to go first?
Okay.
We're all in agreement. Go ahead, sir. Your mic on?
Just on a quick note, someone asked me about the Middlebush Park and if they could put a cricket field where the soccer field was, just to play. They would put down a temporary pitch or however they wanted to do it. So I asked Mr. Healy, our planner, and we went over the dimensions of the cricket field that'll be put in at, well, wants to be put in at, no, what's the park? Catalpa.
Catalpa.
The Catalpa. And we realized that the dimensions wouldn't fit. So if we were looking for a cricket field or the possibility of putting a cricket field in Middlebush Park, it won't fit. The dimensions just won't fit for us to do something of that nature. And our redevelopment meeting scheduled for this Monday has been canceled because of no activity or anything that needs to come up before the committee, so that will be put off for next month. Now, this is a good one. When I go to Stop and Shop on Route 27, I want to say that that's like a mini town hall, because you'll get caught at the supermarket by someone. They may not know your name, but you get caught. And before you know it, somebody else who saw you someplace else will join in. Now, at this one little town hall meeting, I start out with a him and a her, husband and wife, and we end up somewhere around 9, 10, 11, 12 people. And for a half hour, I stood there and answered questions. So just to let you know what some of those questions were, and basically what my answers were, and I'm going to ask the indulgence of the council here for another 10 minutes or so. They wanted to know why I wanted to vote first instead of last. Because if you listen to the council, we usually go in alphabetical order. I'm the last one. I'm with the W. So, in my opinion, I wanted my vote to count. Because, you see, voting last allows me to vote with the winning party. Or, if I so choose, the losing party. So either way, you could say my vote doesn't count. Because after you pass number 5, if everything before number 5 is a yay, then the motion carries. No matter what I say, it carries. So I can just say no, and it wouldn't matter. Now, it would matter if somehow it came down to Councilman Vassanella, who votes number 8. Now I get to have a little motion there because, again, I'm the swing vote on something I've never walked into. So that was very interesting, and I like that question, so that, in my opinion, and you'll hear that I will say in my opinion all night long, because I do not represent the other 8 council members. We all have our own little thought, our own little opinions on everything. So, in my opinion, this is why I do this. Now, my next question that came up was, please explain peace and nonviolence. What is the situation there? Number 2, why the 4 statutes as mentioned? And 3, why didn't the township get the vote on them too? So starting from the bottom up, yeah. We should have maybe have gone to the township for them to vote on what they wanted. We present the slate as Councilman Prasad and the council came up with, and then let the residents vote on something of that nature, because they too live here, not just the 9 of us. The second question, that was the third question. The second question, why the 4 that were mentioned, see above. Why? We thought of them. We came up with the thought that, yes, Martin Luther King, yes, Gandhi, peace and nonviolence, yes, Nelson Mandela, because he was in jail, he stood up for what he wanted. And Mother Teresa, you just can't. Poor, the sick, leprosy, AIDS victims, everything was charity. I mean, I couldn't find anything wrong with her. Now, if you can, please bring it forward. Mayor Kramer would love it. Rashid Prasad would love it, because, in my opinion, that's what I thought of. And explain nonviolent. Well, let me turn the page here. And I'm giving you the cleaned up version because, we were all over the place. And it was kind of interesting. In my opinion, once again, peace and harmony for all to follow. And by that, I was mentioning that as you drive past it, as you look at it, maybe in your mind you're thinking about what they represented and how they represented it. So again, peace and harmony, maybe we'll move a little closer toward that. No matter who you are, you would sort of drift that way. And that came into the fact that when I came to town in 1989, I built my house, and we were not that diverse, in my opinion. I didn't see the diversity that we have now. And I'm starting to think, well, maybe we do need something like that, because since we're all coming from different corners, we have different ideas, different thoughts, that on this little blue marble that we're sitting on, maybe we can sort of right injustice, the suffering for all, in all forms, and in believing in people and ourselves to fix the blue marble problems. Now that is so pie in the sky, and everyone, my 8 members down there will probably say, hey, Carl, I mean, that's really up in the air there. But you asked me a question, and that's what I gave them. Knowing that coming back to earth, it's just that it just shows mankind the humanity that we have, and that's basically why I went with it. Township manager and our attorney. Why did I want the township manager and our attorney to look into the issues arising from the project? Well, that was simple. somewhere along the line between Councilman Vasanella and Mayor Kramer, I don't know where it came from, but there was a mention, and I think it was Councilman Vasanella, that from $50,000 to $100,000. I don't know where that came from, but, excuse me, the township manager, because it popped up. And I kept saying to myself, wow, where'd that number come from? Who came up with that number? So I'm thinking that maybe we should have held off and said, okay, are we using township labor? Is that labor being paid for by somebody else? Is there a construction company that's doing this? The only thing basically we would need if somebody else was doing it would be planning board or zoning board type of information. But that's where I went with that, and that was the short answer. Then it came up to our township attorney, and I said, well, from his standpoint, it would be to make sure that the township never got on the hook. He would make sure that no matter what came up, we as a township would not be liable for it. And that's why he gets paid the big bucks. He makes sure that we are not in trouble with our ordinances, statutes, whatever. That would be under him, and I expect him to come back and tell, hey, Councilman Prasad, we have an issue with this. Or to the council, we have an issue with this, and we need to straighten that out before we move forward. So that's all I can say about that. And I didn't want us to micromanage. We have the ability to micromanage a project. Now, I asked the gentleman that will come forward later with the youth center, I just asked him, do you regularly have people that micromanage you? Some people that dig into the woodpile where they just have no expertise? And I'm stretching this out a little bit. But then I asked some other individuals about that. People that, yes, Bill, I know you do. I asked them, what happens? CME, our engineers, how do you know, and do you really want people to micromanage you? And then in the same breath, tell you something, and you go, God, no, dude, that's not the way you do it. Come to a planning board meeting, and you'll understand why we do it this way. So I kind of am torn between that micromanaging thing. It's good and it's bad, but it's going to happen. I know it is. So, okay, just like the youth center, it'll happen. I told the mayor that some people asked for the mayor about his state of the township, and the mayor informed me that wherever you come up with to say, hey, we want you to come over because we want you to explain X, Y, Z. The mayor said he'd be more than happy to come and talk to you about that. It's interesting. He definitely was informative about what we were doing. So I want to give, credit to the mayor there. But people asked, and I said I would bring it up to the mayor, and I dropped it on his table, his plate. Then we came up to the streets, which is definitely an issue. They wanted to know why certain streets were paved and certain streets weren't, but yet those that weren't were connected to the streets that were paved. And while I told them how the grading system worked, excellent to worst, and we usually want everybody in the middle, so to speak, because I think we're on a 20-year life cycle, a 25-year life cycle on the street, depending how the streets were used, like Veronica, JFK. They were all heavily used streets with trucks and everything, so that played a part in that. But I said, let me kick that down to someone in the Public Works Committee, or better yet, to the township manager, and he can actually get the details. I said it probably wouldn't be this week or next week. I can't speak for him, and I didn't tell him. So I doubt if we would be this week because I didn't tell him. But that's something that came up. And again, I gave him the short version. Then there was a question that just to put it out there, he wanted to be part of the planning board. He or she. And I said, well, there's a long list of individuals that want to be on the planning board. But submit the proper paperwork to our master clerk, and then she'll pile it up with all the rest of them. And I said, that's basically what all the committees that come in. Now, you mentioned the Open Space Committee. Well, that definitely came up too. And again, they wanted to be a part of those committees. And I said, well, you can come and sit in the audience. I mean, they're not closed committee meetings. Come on and sit. And if you hear something you don't like, definitely get up and, hey, I don't like that. Could we do it this way? Could we do it that way? But that's a way to become engaged in the process. So if anybody else wants to become engaged, that's the way you do it. And then someone asked about the Republican Democrat, and I was like, no, I can't get into that. But if you want to go down that road, please, whatever party you want to belong to, come on out. It's okay. You just don't have to be a part of those three independent Democrat. You know, it doesn't matter. Socialists, then you have the Democrats for a New Start, Libertarian, Take Back the American Way. I mean, you got all these programs. It's unbelievable. At this point, I told them I had to stop because I had steaks. They were calling me. I was grilling in my backyard under this nice tarp. I had my favorite drinks lined up. I bought a brand new widescreen flat TV. And I wanted to get busy with it. Okay. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it was a impromptu thing. It started out like 3 and ended up at 9, 10, 11. But it shows you that people do watch TV. They may not speak up. They may not come to the meeting, but they do watch TV. And sometimes they don't see you to put the hand out and say, hey, wait a minute, explain this. And I think sometimes I want to put up a little shop in front of Stop and Shop and say, hey, I'm open, come on in and ask a question, we're here. Or go down to the, what is it, IHOP, iBob now? I think something they changed the P to a B or something. And, I'm sorry? For a while, it's going to be that way for a while, Councilman Chase. And actually has, hey, come on by and talk to me. I'll give you some answers as best I can. But that was key to my day. Also, on a side note, African proverb, because something came up, just an African proverb. A smile in the midst of complex or conflict makes communication easier. Okay? And I had to dig into that, so I had to look at it, and it worked for me. And some other people said, it does make sense. Because if you're not feeling it, then laughter allows you to break that silly tug of war. And that smile allows you to break the tension, and you can continue on with what you want to do. So that, Mr. Mayor, is my day, my picnic in the park, my time at Stop and Shop. And yes, I did get home in time to knock out them steaks and watch my new widescreen flat TV outside. Not inside the house, but outside. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman, and I'm sorry. Councilwoman Francois, you had a point?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to make a motion to change the order of the agenda so we could go to item number 9, which is the council discussion item, and then after we finish that, go back to council committee reports and comments and manager's report. Do I have a second?
Second.
Excuse me, I get to
I'm
say, do you
sorry.
have a second?
You told me to run the meeting.
You will in a second. Madam Clerk, please put down that this was the time I lost control of the meeting. Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor of changing the order of the meeting as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Oh, we have one opposed, okay. Motion is still carried, well, we had one opposing vote. And so we are going on to item number 9. We will come back to the previously scheduled council committee reports and comments. Item number 9 is the council discussion item on the youth center, and then will be followed by the public hearing and adoption, perhaps, of the capital ordinance. Since this is something Councilwoman Francois has worked on, Councilwoman, would you please lead this portion of the meeting?
Okay, sure. So, Mayor and Council, we have our architectural firm, Kimmel Brogette, who did the actual design that we saw presentations a couple months ago, and now they're here to talk about the next steps in the process before we do our appropriation of funds. There you go. Take it away.
Hi, welcome. It's still working as it
Not
is.
working? What?
Oh.
Worked, she had it.
TV works.
Will the, sorry, will the videographer be able to get the TV so the public will be able to watch this, I hope? I don't see any of the cameras swing. Oh, there we go. The camera is swinging. Very nice.
All right, so I'll just give a sort of a brief introduction while that
So-
gets worked on.
So might I suggest that council members who can't see the screen take a seat down there? I'm going to take a seat down there. Here we go.
All righty? We're ready? Okay, great. Sorry for the confusion. We're very happy to be before you again this evening. We were asked by the team here to give you an update, which has a lot of the information you saw last week, and or last time I was here. I'll speed through that, and what we really want to talk about tonight is the next steps. Okay, and the next steps, broadly speaking, and then we'll go into some detail on each, are with the approval of the board, of course, to engage in the detailed design that would take everything that we have done to date, from the conceptual to the thoroughly thought out design side, to be able to put together engineering and architectural and interior design documents that would allow us to produce construction plans, specification, what you might often call here bid documents over a course of months, that would allow us to then eventually be able to put the project out to public bid, utilizing the New Jersey, municipal code as our guide for that, such that at one day we could come back to you with bid pricing for your consideration to award the project for construction. And then if you so decide, we would then proceed and represent the township throughout the construction and oversee that all the way to the end and through an opening, with regular input from the township throughout, regular reports to the township of progress throughout that entire process, which would take, Bob, about a year to get from here to the point where you could start construction, and then roughly about another year after that. Right? So seeing that we're going to be projectorless, we'll proceed with the slides. You can hit that a couple times, Safi. So just recall, we promised you some things at the beginning, is that we would really focus on representing your money and not spending too much to solve the problem that you have. And I think there's fairly wide agreement that we've been successful there. Individual opinions may be accepting that. We've tried to focus on the mission of the community, and I'll let Bob talk a little more in a minute about, but there was a lot of community engagement. So this was very much something we went out and asked what folks thought they would need to have a successful youth center, and what the design has represents that, and that's part of our core values. Down the road, we hope to represent you to a successful financial conclusion through construction in the shark-infested waters of public projects. So anyway, so with that, we can proceed. So what we have for you is, in order to do this forward, thus far you've worked just with us. Moving forward, we need a team of other professionals that support us in that. So we would have a structural engineer, Ruther Bowen, who is located on that slide in the lower right. Lower center, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection engineer, who would help us design the air conditioning, electrical systems, the projector systems that will always work. Civil engineering, which we do the site design, and that may be done by the township through a direct consultant, or they will work for us. That's to be determined. A little bit of a food service consultant, Corsi, who would help us with any kind of having the facility to support events. All right. We took you through the master concept plan. Why don't I let you lead here, Bob?
Sure. So Bob Reed, first one, thank you in terms of the opportunity to be here, just personally, in terms of what the process that we've been following through, in terms of what you see up there in terms of master concept planning, that we're first through the first 5 phases, but in exciting phases, but now it's a matter of getting it implemented. The difference between architects and artists is we'd like to come up with really great ideas, but it doesn't matter. We didn't succeed until we get it built and we have a facility that can be used for its purpose. So that's what we have a real good foundation here in terms of looking at the mission, looking at what were our constraints and variables and opportunities were here, looking at what should be in this building, and then looking at what was a design that fulfilled that. Looking at, I can say this is the first client I ever had that I showed up to the first meeting and I was told, we're not going to tell you what's in this, you have to go find it out for yourself. So so that was exciting. So it was a matter of looking at a project that really grew out of the folks that were going to be served by this building. So so we took on that challenge, and I think succeeded well in terms of looking at talking to a lot of folks at Franklin Township in terms of leadership, but also the folks who are going to be using it and providing service. So we worked together to create a mission statement in terms of looking at what should this place be about. We've done other projects like this. You might assume, okay, we've done a project like this, so we'll do another one like that. That's not how we approach it. It's a matter of a blank slate to look at how is this facility going to grow out of exactly what you need, what the people, listening to the people who had strong opinions and other people who had soft opinions in terms of making sure that we were listening to everyone. Then looking at the site. That building is not there anymore, which I think is a great testament to something's going to happen here. That I would imagine in terms of folks from the community would see, okay, there's construction fences up, the building's been cleared, that the township is serious about doing something here. So we looked at what are the opportunities and challenges at that site.
And the site being 429 Lewis Street.
I apologize. 429 Lewis. And you used to have a slide in there that actually said that. I apologize and thank you, Councilwoman. And then looking at, like we were saying, what goes into the building. So there's looking at diverse opinions, diverse attitudes towards what should this place be about. It should be fun, it should be dynamic, it should be a place to learn, it should be a place to have fun, to meet people, to appreciate others in the community is what we heard from resoundingly. And a place to get help. If you need some help, that there's an opportunity there. So there was a whole diversity of number of different types of spaces, the gymnasiums and workout spaces, tutoring spaces, multi-purpose spaces. A building like this, we do the best we can to know what's going to be in there day one, but it's going to change. It may change before even day one. It's definitely going to change over the years that followed to make sure that this facility continues to change with the community's needs. Okay. We can continue through the program. Then Martin had taken you through last time in terms of looking at something that was talked about earlier in terms of the appreciation for the diversity in this community. What we heard was there's a lot of different kids who come from different backgrounds, who have different interests, but want to be together. So the design really grew out of how do we create a space that it's okay to be different and to celebrate being different, but also have an interest in being together so that you can learn from other folks in the community and really build long-lasting friendships. So looking at the different floor plans in terms of having a common space that really bound a number of diverse type shapes of spaces that have different uses in there. So it's something that really speaks to who are the people that are in there. We heard from kids, we love the diversity of this town, and we want to get together in this place. And then a third floor, actually, that the kids who are doing a great job in terms of, and youth that are doing a great job in terms of being part of this community. There's a lounge that actually is on the third floor that gives an opportunity for a nice, great view out over the town. That's what had existed previously, and then through our efforts working together with the township, looking at a facility that would be dynamic and exciting. We heard from folks that they wanted to see something modern, they wanted to see something colorful and playful. They wanted to feel that it was something that was welcoming and not turning their back on the community.
And I think, yeah, a lot of that was around this notion of being hopeful and aspirational and a beacon in the community and not just another institutional building with an institutional purpose.
And you see a lot of color, a lot of class in terms of making sure that it's folks can see that there's a lot of excitement and things going on inside and that they might want to be in there and be in part of it. As opposed to you see in some communities where they're really solid walls and you can't see what's going on in there. It doesn't, in that case, it doesn't promote that activity that we heard that folks want to be involved with. They want to have, in this building, feel that there's something there. Even if I don't know what I want to do yet, there's something there. So where we go through in terms of the process is there's a lot of fun and excitement that we've been through. Like I said, unless we do an excellent job at making sure that we develop these ideas further and document them very well for contractors to understand, then the facility that grows out of it may not reach the potential that we all expect. That's where us going through a very specific process, very methodical, to make sure that we develop these ideas, working with not just architecturally within ourselves, working with the team that Martin had discussed, so that we have a whole team of folks who are working towards the same goal that's been delineated in terms of making sure that we're successful here for Franklin Township. So we go through a schematic design completion. So there's items that may not be fully developed at this point. We continue to develop those through drawings like this, working with our engineers and our own internal efforts as well.
So speaking specifically of steps, one of the first steps that we do, and you almost have to design the building like you would build a building. So we will start with the site civil engineering. So we take our site concept and we refine that with the user groups and the neighbors and make sure we have that right. And then that goes into civil engineering and land development through the New Jersey State process so that we have all the stormwater management and all the required things. And that has a life of its own. So as that's submitted, that'll go through its approval process. It might come back through some committees and back to the board from a pure land development standpoint. And at the same time we're doing that, so that we don't take too long in the schedule, we're developing the details of the building in more detail, and those things then end up on a dual track.
And then consistent with that is we want to make sure that this project comes in on budget. So there's a tendency for a lot of folks to say, okay, the client wants this, let's give it to them, because that must make them happy. But the thing is, our clients generally don't know what does this cost? I said, yes, I like that, but what does that cost? So that's our job to make sure that we're accommodating the desires of the client, but also making sure that we're responsible in terms of talking about if there's things added, that could be some additional cost, and we just make sure we understand that along the way. and that we'll do cost estimates at each one of these phases so that we make sure that we're still in line with where we expect the cost of the project to be, so that we're fiscally responsible.
So there'll be a lot of touches from the user groups in the schematic design to flush out the details. And then we're in design development, which was the next contractual phase. That's where we dive deep from a professional standpoint into the technical side. How are the walls going to be made? How are they going to be insulated? How are we going to interact with your code officials here in the township and make sure that they're happy, the building inspectors are happy, you have a great group of professionals here, and we'll be back and forth with them, less so with the public and more so with the technical folks, to then create the set of documents that will ultimately be the bid set that rolls all that up.
Yeah, and make sure in terms of the folks, we are going to be, when this job's finished, we're going to want to keep coming back and seeing it, but the reality is Franklin Township has to maintain this and run it. So it was designed in a sense so that the fewest amount of staff possible can run it effectively. So we make sure that long-term that the building's affordable to run, as well as maintain. So we will talk to your facilities folks to make sure that what's being built is easy to maintain through time, so that we spend the least amount of money in terms of that maintenance. So going through these type of documents and construction documents, we want to make sure we answer all the questions that contractors may have, so that when it comes to bid day, that there's very few questions as to what it's going to take to make sure that this is a successful project from the contractor's point of view. We want them to make money. We want this to go smoothly. End of the day, Franklin Township is the most important entity here. We want to make sure your rights are protected, and that's where going through, making sure these documents are very good, and then going into the next slide, looking at, and I'm sorry, can continue from there. Getting into bidding is making sure that that we have a great set of documents, that you get good bids back, that they're competitive, that everything's included in it, because we want to make sure that we're not having surprises during construction. We want to have, our goal is to have 0 change orders, and we work very hard to make sure that during construction that we're not having questions that are causing extra costs to the township. Then we get our boots pretty dirty through this process. We architects wear a lot of hats through here in terms of being able to have the opportunity to speak to all of you, to have the opportunity to work on wonderful designs of projects. But again, unless it gets built well, then it's not meeting its purpose. So we make sure that we're working well with to protect Franklin Township's interest here, working with the contractor to answer any questions during construction, and making sure that what's being built is consistent with what we all agreed to up to that point.
So to finish Bob's metaphor, eventually the hats become hard hats. And I was waiting for you to go for that, and I was like, oh, come on. But anyway, so, but it really is. So our relationship with you lasts, throughout that construction period, and then really there's a 1-year warranty period that exists after the building is built and open, to make sure that if things are not right, that are found after you open, that you're able to claim those on warranty and not have to pay to fix something that you just paid to have brand new, which in the municipal world sometimes happens. So we're helpful on that. So project schedule, and this is sort of a presumptive schedule that you could roll from whatever start date we actually have. But if you were to start the project and get through this process that we're in right now, say by July 1st or thereabouts, we look at the schematic design period taking really about a month, because our concept study is so far along already, was well vetted by the various groups and this room here, that we can advance that, we think, very quickly. And then you'll notice the design development is where, it's a longer chunk, because there's a lot of work that has not been done, 2.5 months. So we look at being by, mid to late October. And then with the construction period being about 3 months, construction documentation, keeping in mind that the land development period will run really that entire 6 months in a separate track that I mentioned earlier, on the site side of things. So that allows you, as you sit today, with a little bit of fluff, to be out to bid and under construction late spring to early summer of next year, with the idea that it's probably about a 12 to 14-month construction period, or 16 is what we show on the schedule to be safe. So the notion that you could be occupying as early as the winter season of 2020.
The reality, the folks that you see now who were involved early in the process, you'll see throughout the project. So you'll see us with the dirty boots on, with the hard hat, here reporting to you in terms of making sure that the great things that we found out from you and from other folks in the room are continued through, that we have that continuity.
Have any questions about the process moving forward?
If I heard you correctly, you mentioned that the design specifically lends itself to a lower cost of staff and operating expenses. Could you give me a specific, example or two of how that would play out in this design?
Absolutely. So in facilities like when you have someone, a youth, that you want to encourage that they feel like they're there and they have freedom, but you also want to keep an eye on them. It's a matter of how do you have our control desk is in the middle of the space that you can see into all of the different spaces. You can see into the gymnasium, you can see to the library, you can see to play areas, you can see even to upper and lower floors. So someone at a control desk who is making sure that folks are where they're supposed to be in terms of coming in, or having an opportunity to help someone to maybe give out ping pong paddles or whatnot, they have the ability to see into a lot of spaces. So what that does is reduce the amount of folks who may have to be sprinkled around the building if you didn't have that visibility into other places. So you have somewhere that youth know who they can go to if they need something, and also a staff member has the opportunity to see where a lot of activity is happening around the building.
So for instance, on the drawing here is this central area that is labeled as the commons. So you'll sort of note a conspicuous lack of corridors in this building, hallways like you have that go around this building where there's just hidden space. There's one corridor. But the idea is from that single location that Bob points out, you have direct line of sight across all the common area, but you also have direct line of sight into the access point into all the individual areas, and you have direct line of sight down this corridor with the idea that these are and would be controlled anyway and not staffed. They would just be open when they're open for use. So that is principally that. And if you go to the next page, you kind of have the same idea on the second floor. From the ground level, you're able to see up. And so that's one of the number one things where you could have one or two folks and you don't have to have staff that's dedicated to running and looking, or I'm sure you'll have some cameras and security equipment, but you wouldn't have to have like a really amazingly deep one. So that's the main issue. And then within the individual areas, the idea that if the library is being open hours, that might only be one person for that space because it's one sort of common space and not broken up into lots of little spaces. So that's the general concept.
And you can even see to the outside in terms of some glass around the commons. So you could see to the outside if there were any activities that were happening outside as well from some central locations.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, no, I have an understanding, and that the human interaction and visibility is good. I understand. I assumed, and actually it led me to a question, that everything's, you have a board at wherever, at the receptionist or the director's office, where I assume most of the common areas and the outside are all monitored nowadays. All construction usually has that all. So I actually don't see the cost savings, but the personal, it's a nice arrangement. But I'm still not seeing that there be a benefit in the cost. But I like the idea of how you explained it will be dealt with.
Fair enough.
And just curious, how do you balance? You do this, obviously, you handle a lot of specialized projects. How do you balance the sense of privacy and comfort for all the kids of various ages coming through there, and balance that with obviously needing to monitor and provide a safe environment? Because I would imagine kids are going to want to feel like they have their own space, and we want to give them that space, right, Councilwoman French? Well, that's the idea. But yeah, so obviously you have the responsibilities, though, of
the strategy is that there are open areas where students can congregate almost by personality. Introverts have an area where they can be off sort of by themselves and own that, and groups can be together, not by themselves, and so on. But all of those areas are within plain sight. And we really don't want to have to rely on cameras, because the camera is still there, but somebody has to be looking at the camera when the thing goes down. And you don't want to be going, okay, well, we just used the tape to figure out what happened. So the idea is if it's open and there's not too much privacy, but there's a sense of you can be yourself, that is how we do it. We do that a lot in even workplaces where we want to have a really open workplace, but then you find better behaviors when kind of people can see what everybody else is doing. You don't have this sense of the ability to even consider doing something that maybe would be a bad idea. And it generally works. And when you come to a facility like this, you're generally not coming here to have private time. It is a congregate type of thing, and you're coming here to build community and sort of almost the opposite of isolation.
The idea is almost like interaction with the adult and the adult staffs and adult mentors, but not necessarily, how do I say it, supervision. It's more of interaction. You want to build a, well, yeah.
Well,
No,
that's-
the design definitely lends itself to that, and I appreciate your commentary on it.
Thank you.
So can you put the timeline back up the very end? No, because December 2020 was the
Correct.
grand opening date. And I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback on that date. A lot of complaints about why it's taking so long. So can you
Okay.
at least
I wasn't sure
address
which way
that?
you were going with that.
Yeah.
So just for the sake of sort of general education, independent of anybody in this room, the land development process, which is the process you have to get approval by the state and the county, and to some extent folks in this room, but we'll say mostly the state, to develop land in New Jersey is a minimum 6-month effort from the time that you submit engineered site drawings. So just take that. So there is, say 2 months to submit, 6 months or more. You're close to a year just to go through that on average for all projects. So independent, again, of anybody in this room, you're kind of 10 months to a year out, best case scenario, from the day that you start until the first time you could literally scrape a shovel into the ground out there, all right? So then what we do...
Can I ask you, what state approval?
We submit to DEP and DC, no, not DCNR.
Because you said the site approval would take 6 months. I think
Yeah.
you're thinking about a planning
No,
process?
just permitting through DEP and,
What DEP permits would be needed on this site? I mean, is there wetlands on the site?
Everywhere that we go, the conservation districts want to see the stormwater management part of the project at a level above the municipal level, at least in my experience in New Jersey. If you know a route where it doesn't go
You
there.
must only build in wetlands. I mean, this site was a built site, that had a
it was a developed site.
developed site, had a building on it, it was torn down. I don't think that there's a DEP permit here.
Okay, I thought we just had one in New Brunswick for Rutgers for a project we did, but I could be in error, and if I'm in error, and we can compress the time, that'd be great.
Well, no, I don't think there's a DEP permit. I think this is it's not really even a planning board application because it's a municipal project. So we don't necessarily have to even go to the planning board. So there's no planning board approval. There's no DCA approval. There's no DEP
DCA.
approval unless you tell me that there's wetlands on this site, and I don't believe that there is.
And no DCA.
If there's a stormwater issue, that's our engineering department, so.
I would just like to say, I would like it to go before planning board, even just for cursory.
Oh, we do that.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, it doesn't require a planning board
Doesn't
approval,
require
but
approval,
making a,
Right.
So I said, Al, if you can help us compress what my entire career has shown me is a 6 to 8 month process to shorter, I would love that. I'd be the first person to stand in line for how we can, with you all, to
no,
compress it.
I think that the process, Rutgers may have a different process, and it depends on the site, but this is a confined site, it's a public building, it doesn't require any of those other, the approval process that you just mentioned is not one that is applicable here. So it's not compressing it, it's just not part of this process.
All right, so that noted, what we do is sort of back the rest of our schedule into that. And if you say if we could in fact compress that schedule, again, we're talking about right now a bid date of February, so what is that? That's not even 10 months. So that's 9 months out anyway. So we were pretty aggressive on this to begin with. So we're, July 1 to February 1 to be out to bid is, somebody help me with that math, 5 plus 2, 7 months. So we were pretty aggressive on that anyway in terms of getting through then the design, the engineering. We don't have a proper site survey yet to even start the submission of the land development process. So at any rate, I think this is pretty realistic as an early start date. Okay, unless you said we want to move the sun and the moon and the stars to start faster. It kind of adds up with a reasonable time that you would want to start construction.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So, bear in mind the calendar and what happens in February, and the likelihood of construction, and especially when it comes to the beginning stages of construction with concrete that can't be poured till April in New Jersey, and so.
And you do also have the award period. So there's the vetting process, and then however long it takes you all to feel comfortable to award, and that varies from location to location as to how long that goes through the contract process. But at any rate, so I'm going to continue to represent that I think this is a reasonably aggressive schedule, and to beat that by a month or two is unlikely, but maybe remotely possible.
But,
and if you lost a month or two, you still could make it up. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, also a concern in terms of, I think it is aggressive, but if we were to save a month or month and a half and we're trying to bid over the holidays, what we find is that we lose time over that period, that there's just folks not, you want to say that you're not losing time there, but we lose at least 2 weeks in terms of bid time. So unfortunately, I don't think we would even gain a lot because the bid period would be longer at that time.
Well, and of course, this is what attorneys do. So I shortened your time, and now I'm going to lengthen your time. I just asked the mayor, if the estimated cost of this project is $10 million or more, the bids and specifications have to be sent to the Office of the Comptroller for their review before they go out to bid.
That's correct.
So there you go. So that is,
And that is probably, it's a 30 to 90-day process, I'm thinking.
and they want the full bid set. Okay, so.
Yeah, you have to, they have to approve your bids.
Yeah.
They have to approve the bid documents before you can
And that's the same,
advertise.
that maybe I had my.
Yeah, that's okay. No, that's quite all right. That's quite all right.
Misremembered. All right, but anyway, so where I do see maybe we have a little conservation of time in here is 16 months. That's more of a worst-case number. This project shouldn't take 16 months to build, but we were trying to not be too aggressive and then overpromise and then later have to come back and explain why it didn't happen when stuff happens all the time. But 12 months is probably the shortest duration. 16, I'd like to hope, is the longest duration. The public bid market right now is a tough world because everybody's so busy. Getting people to finish projects is a huge challenge all over this state and other states. And so I wouldn't want you to go out and tell everybody we can do it, and get open in October and then have to explain why. So I'd just be wary of that.
So my comment is it took us more than 50 years to get here, so we want to get it done the right way. Take our time and get it done appropriately. So some of the folks that are going to push back, we'll just have to articulate to them why it's taking so long. Thank you.
My one question is so we're about to do an ordinance for just under $1 million. That pays for the time the contract is awarded until the opening of the building plus a year of that warranty. That would be the engineering services available for that price.
I would like to clarify something, Mr. Mayor. That's not the price. There's already $230,000 appropriated for this purpose in previous year's budget in capital. The total is 1.2 million, not 970. You have to add the 230 that's already been appropriated to this. This is to add to that total, so it's 1.2 million.
Okay. But your services, for that price, we have your services until opening plus a year, covering the warranty period.
That's correct.
And that's true even if this thing is delayed 6 months, it's
Yeah, I mean, the
opening plus
devil
a
would
year.
be in some contractual details. Under certain circumstances, there could be reductions to that cost, and under other circumstances, there might be additions to that cost. The solicitor will no doubt vet the contract and make sure that that is fair and reasonable in construction terms for public projects.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from the council? Comments? Okay, well, thank you very much for this is a wonderful design. We're all very, very excited about the project, and we're looking forward to working very closely with you. We will be managing, obviously, your time and authorizing and making sure we oversee every part of the project. We'll be hand in hand, and you know that.
Yep. We thank you as well, and we appreciate the consideration on the bump in the agenda. That was nice of you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So, public hearing and adoption ordinances on second reading. We have an ordinance pertaining to this, ordinance 4236-18. Councilwoman Francois, would you please read the title of the ordinance?
Sure. Ordinance number 4236-18, capital ordinance appropriating $970,000 from the capital fund balance to pay for the youth center, architecture, and engineering costs for the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey.
Public hearing has been noticed as required. And so do we have a motion to open for public hearing on this item only?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion on opening for public hearing? Seeing none, all in favor of opening for public hearing, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. We are now open for public discussion on this ordinance only. Tibbs, you were asking if there'd be discussion. This is that time. Again, 5 minutes limit, name and address, et cetera, et cetera.
Johnny Tip, 25 Parkside. I think you know my interest in the building of the building. And Kimberly, I think you expressed my feelings earlier in terms of the time limit that this building, at first they told me they put the shovel in the ground in 2019. Now it won't be finished until 2020, and it's an additional year. And it was explained to me on the chart why it would take that much time. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money we pay for engineering costs and so forth. But being that they are responsible for building of the building up until the time the building gets built, and of course the year of warranty does gives me a little bit of credence to accept pretty much the complete ordinance. And I respect the engineers that gave the outline, and I hope that the timeline can be reduced in any way. I know, but I have to say it. It was explained to me, but I'm just thinking about one particular thing, Mr. Mayor. How many kids I'm going to lose up until that time? I have nowhere to go with the kids. Our only concern is how many I will lose in 2 more years. And I hope I do approve of the project. And of course, you guys know my real concern is, and I told you. And I thank you very much for the approval of the building. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Benjamin Guy, 35 Patton Drive. There's 2 questions I got for the building. One is, are we, for this capital raise that's actually going to go for the building, are we doing, is this going to be raised through tax increase, or is this coming out of another budget item that's actually going to be there? That's one thing I want to ask about. Second thing is about the potential programming and support because of the dynamics that's going to be there. Is this going to be managed under potentially later on Parks and Rec Department, or how's this going to be managed during the time frame? As we look forward, not now, but as we look forward, because if there's going to be programs and institutional people that want to support this, we're just looking at who's going to be managing it, what should they be doing, and what should we functionally be supporting as this progresses. The third option is that the third question is that what the timelines, and to go to Mr. Tibbs' point, is that what type of now that we know potentially where we're at, all right, we're looking at probably pretty much 2 years of hard labor, hard work to actually produce something that's going forward. What type of dynamic are we going to be dealing with in the intermediates to actually support what's going on with potentially what's going to go in this building at all? And that's the things that I just want to throw out to the town council with. Is there a conversation with the Board of Ed and the Parks and Rec Department to jointly look at certain things that they can put in this building, so that there's a needs assessment prior to it, so that in case zoning does, in case there's a structural thing that's looked at the building, that they can actually have and talk directly to the engineers to say, this is the type of thing that we want to support going forward at all. So just want to look at those dynamics and actually have a conversation behind the scenes. Most of the stuff might be done already, but I just want to make sure that it's open to the public as far as those reference points. So thank you.
So in answer to your question, the first one is, how is it being paid for? It will be paid for out of the general fund. We will bond for it. I'm not going to say it will raise taxes, because we may cut something else instead of it, but it will come out of taxes. Recreation Department will oversee the management of it, and I think that, anyone else can weigh in here, but I don't think mid-construction is a time to say, hey, we want to add a gymnasium or something like that. I think a lot of that has already been done, and, if there are tweaks to it, that should happen before that shovel goes in the ground, my opinion.
That was the purpose of conducting a extensively lengthy concept development project, which is what we did for the first phase of this, was to determine need and now move forward with design. So need has been determined.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I also think ongoing, we'll be having some user focus groups and talk about when the building actually opens up, what kind of programs are we going to have in that building, and what kind of volunteers are going to be part of the program, and scheduling and all that kind of stuff. We're going to roll out the building, and how it will be utilized. So there will be some ongoing discussions with the community input. But the design is pretty much done at this point.
Right, I agree with that. Anyone else?
Mayor, seeing no one else come forward, a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close public discussion. Seeing no one raising their hand for discussion on that, all in favor of closing public discussion on this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Public discussion on this item is closed. Ms. Francois, would you like to motion the item itself?
I moved to approve move to adopt the ordinance on second reading.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any council discussion on this item? Councilman Prasad.
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
This project is 10 years too late. We needed it 10 years ago when we lost 2 people, and we've got to be cognizant of the fact that, if we got to rush it as best as we can and provide some kind of a vehicle for the kids to stay safe till we have this operational. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Chase.
Well, I just say, yeah, it would have been nice to start it 10 years ago, but at that point we were going into a big recession.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no other comments, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
We now return to our previously scheduled programming. for council comments other than Mr. Wright, starting with Ms., you already went. Mr. Chase.
I don't have any committee meetings to report on because I was away the week of when there was the Land Use Committee and the Public Works Committee. I know that the Public Works Committee came pretty close to closure on what roads are to be repaved, and Councilman Galtieri can probably expand on that. And of course, I also missed the last council meeting, including the discussion of the Peace and Goodwill Park. So I don't really have any other comments to make. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just that the Community Foundation had met, and they have about $15,000 that were raised 10 years ago for the memorial, and so they decided to release it for any installation costs that might be required. The annual meeting met to discuss the health inspections for various events and to try and expedite that process. And Dr. Musaba was there, and they're going to look at ways of streamlining the process, especially on Saturday inspections where they just have to come and measure the temperature of the food. So public safety is important, but some way it can also be business friendly. So we'll use technology hopefully to improve that process. Human Relations Commission did not meet because the May meeting is actually also Memorial Day, so that meeting was not held. And land use, we had a meeting where we discussed various acquisitions that I don't think I should be mentioning. Our land use consultant has been very active in looking at things, and it'll be good once everything is concluded. And as far as the ad hoc committee that was appointed last time to look into the various issues, we met, and Councilman Vasanella will be reporting on it. We had a meeting last Monday, and other than that, I attended an iftar dinner at the Masjid-e-Ali, and they were very gracious in sharing their and opening it up to the interfaith community and inviting everybody to be there. So I will not be at the next meeting as I'll be on vacation, but other than that, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, none other than Councilman Vasanella, as formerly mentioned.
So I was at the ad hoc committee meeting. Gary Rosenthal, the Chair of Human Relations, along with Alex Karazi, head of our interfaith committee in town. A couple other individuals from those committees that were there, and Councilman Prasad. So basically, we went over drawings, and let me just recap it with a couple of the main points here. Committee met, that was Monday, June 11th, reviewed sketches and the potential layouts. Group discussed it, input was provided. Sketches will, in the process of now being converted to formal drawings, and which is in process now. Upon receipt of the drawings, the committee will meet again to review them. It's really not any big changes or major issues, but there was some commentary that was discussed, and the next meeting, we're hoping that those drawings will be finalized. The goal is to have zero public works time, labor, hours, money, whatever you want to call, but to have none of their actual work needed to the actual installation of the statues and tiles, pavers around the statue area. The actual cost, I'm hoping, assuming the next meeting, Councilman Prasad, I know he'll be away for a bit, but we're hoping next month there'll be specific cost. Now, although the installation will be provided by private construction through whatever legal process, meeting all the criteria that has to be met for someone to do work in town, but that the hopes is that the goal is for that to be paid completely by private funds. So we'll come back next month and report, or I don't want to promise it'll be July because we only have one council meeting, but we will come back as soon as we have time. And if it's between council meetings and there's a big gap, if some of this stuff is in the final stages, we can communicate to the rest of the council via email. And hopefully in August, we'll have a very clear, or by August, if not sooner, a very clear picture of how this can play out. And council, of course, will have to be comfortable with the final facts and drawings.
No communicating with council via email, that would constitute a out of.
No, I just meant to deliver, and if that's not allowable, that's fine also. I meant just to deliver work product, stuff for review,
So
not for discussion, no.
You
Be
could
clear
deliver,
here.
you could deliver that to the clerk and ask her to distribute.
Yeah,
That would
yeah,
be
well, I'm
fine.
not delivering that, I'm saying if Mr. Councilman Prasad has those details. My point is that nobody's looking to sit on the information. It will be shared with council ASAP.
Great.
And I'm sorry, an ELS meeting, it was actually one of the longest ELS meetings I've ever been to, but that's because they put the final touches, or putting the final touches on some changes to some standard operating procedures with our rescue squads, and the process by which they get calls and respond to calls, et cetera. I'm going to say every few years, I'm not sure exactly, but they review that because that's kind of the guidelines, the policies by which they perform this work in town, and much-needed work. So I don't have the minutes from the meeting, but I'll review changes, any substantial changes to those policies. But our ELS, our emergency services, are in great shape between our volunteer services and our, whatever it's called now, Robert Wood Johnson / whatever, Somerset Hospital, Barnabas, et cetera, but we have them and our volunteer squads, and they provide the service, as far as I know, to no cost, not just volunteer, but the rigs that we have constantly available to be dispatched into town by Robert Wood Johnson. So that's pretty much it, Mayor. And I wanted to thank, I didn't get the gentleman's last name, but Patrick, I believe his name was, who came and talked about a project that I'm still not sure exactly how it works.
Pedro is his name.
It's very interesting, and he seemed to be very concerned and happy to have him involved in any of these programs that can create communication. And I think trying to have the generations be a little bit more appreciative and a little bit more understanding, and perhaps we could learn from not just the generation behind us, the one in front of us, et cetera. But I wanted to commend his efforts, and I'm looking forward to learning more about that project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Vasanella. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did attend the Aftar dinner, and I didn't see anybody there that evening. I heard Councilman Prasad's voice broadcasting over the broadcast system. It was a really nice event, and I always, as always, enjoyed the food. Well, they keep the women and the men separate, that's true, so maybe that's why I didn't see anybody. But I closed the place down, so I had a good time. I'm just very, very excited about the youth center, and I just wanted to thank Mayor Kramer and Deputy Mayor Chanel Robinson and the council for your support on this project. It means so much to the community. It certainly means so much to our youth, and clearly it means a lot to me. So I just wanted to express my gratitude and appreciation. And I'll be all over that, and I'll stay on top of it, and we'll try to make sure I'll work with our township manager to make sure we stay on track to the extent that we can, and so we don't have any change orders and schedule slips. Councilman Wright reminded me that on Saturday, I believe it's from 11 to 2, over at the Sisters Garden, Serenity Garden, there's going to be a dedication ceremony of the new gazebo that they have and the new garden that they're installing. And I believe the mayor's going to be there, Councilman Wright's going to be there, everybody from the council is also invited. And I'll be reading the proclamation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And the mayor will be doing the introduction, and I will be cutting the ribbon. And definitely everybody else can come out and hang out with us.
It's going to be a nice affair. And the monies that were provided for this new garden, which is a place for women who were once diagnosed for breast cancer, to have a place to come and feel relaxed and to relieve some of the stress and pressure and anxiety they have. So it's going to be probably a very emotional affair as well. But they're grateful over the monies that were given, donated on behalf of the CDBG funds that the township appropriated for the garden. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and I have previously scheduled weddings at 1 o'clock, so I will leave there promptly at 12:45, so hopefully everything will be on time. And thank you for your leadership on the youth center. Councilman Onijaka.
Yes, Mayor. Now, last time I spoke about the increasing population of deer in Franklin. The population is quite increasing. It's becoming a threat. In fact, I was a victim last week. I was coming back from Cedar Grove, and I just hit a deer. My car was badly damaged, and in fact, I was able to park, and I have to call the cops, so they came on time. So I know that this problem has been going on. In fact, that is why I said we have to take care of it. If any time if you happen that you come out in the midnight around anytime 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock within this area, it's like a market. All the deer are all rolling about the streets, and this is puts the life of our community in danger. I think now I'm a victim of it, and I'll see what it can do. That we need to do something about it. That's what I want to say, Mayor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Will Gilletere.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to congratulate the seniors who had the food truck festival this Saturday. If you didn't get a chance to go out to it, you missed a good time. There was some good food, and I'm hoping that they continue this in the near future, at least for the next couple of years. So thank you to them for hosting that. Thank you also, we talk about the students, but the faculty and staff also put in time to do that. So thank you to them. It is graduation time. Some of our seniors have probably already graduated at some of the high schools, but I know the public high school, it still has a couple weeks to go. So good luck to all the students on your exams, and good luck to our graduating seniors. As far as committee meetings, the first thing I want to mention is just Councilman Chase had mentioned roads. I think we have pretty much set that in stone after much tormenting and going over to make sure as many roads as possible are paved. I think we're pretty much set. So now comes the fun part of sorry for disrupting your lives as the roads get paved, but construction should hopefully start commencing on last year's roads. Yep. The remainder of last year's roads are underway, and probably late summer, early fall will be this round that'll be starting. So we are pretty much set with that. As far as sewage authority, our meeting was last Tuesday. We had a mini reorganization because there was a vacancy with the chair leaving. So all seats have been, all positions have now been filled appropriately, And we do have a special meeting tomorrow night just to approve a bid to begin construction or rehab work in the Foxwood Drive area. So we are trying to be mindful of school. That school is starting later this year, especially with the schools around there. So we have asked the contractor to take that into consideration. If there's any way for the main bus routes to be done first, they will try to get that done. And the only other thing is that I did have I had the opportunity to meet with the senior communities last Monday as well. Great conversations. There were a couple follow-up items that the township manager and I have talked about markings of roads and a couple other items. So we'll try to follow up on that and see what actionable. Other than that, that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Deputy Mayor Chanel Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to keep this brief because my asthma is giving me a fit. I wanted to congratulate Mr. Corville and bring it to our attention in regards to your program called AURA, All of Us Related Anyway, the event July 28th. We'll definitely do our part to make sure we're part of bridging the gap between leadership and the community, in which we took an oath of office to serve the people of this community and beyond. As well as Mr. Connell, on your comments, I believe it wasn't necessarily to give carte blanche on spending money, but really to get through what it is and how we needed to proceed. And we left it with the expertise of our attorney and our township manager to vet the process and when come back what needs to be our next steps. So if that meant it needed to go to planning, zoning, open space, or whatever, we left it with them that they needed to do what their due diligence and not for us to go through the details, because that's not what we're here for. So I believe that's where we left it. And thank you, Councilman Wright, for giving us that commentation or comments being of what we did, a play-by-play of last meeting. Very lengthy, but thank you for capturing that. As well as great job with the concept and the idea of what we're doing with the youth center. I would agree the sentiments of Councilman Prasad about it being 10 years too late, but guess what? We have arrived and we're doing it. So it's better late than never. And the Memorial Day Parade was a wonderful day. So, and coming up next is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers. I have no committee meeting comments right now, as I'm missing a Housing Authority meeting to be here as we rescheduled, and my next meetings will be between now and our next meeting. And so thank you, Mrs. LaCourte, who's in the audience, for coordinating and overseeing you and your team, because it was an awesome job. And the helicopter flyover did happen. So I saw it. So again, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would like to recognize BOE President Nancy LaCourte and BOE member Dr. Smith, Michael Smith, are in presence. And for my comments, I have none. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just two upcoming events to remind everyone about. As on this Saturday, as will be every Saturday through the 22nd of September, the Franklin Township Community Farmers Market from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The weather forecast is looking pretty nice this weekend, so it'll be out at the corner of Amwell Road and DeMott Lane in the township-owned property next to the library. Number of great vendors, local farms, local farm-type products, and I encourage everyone to come out. It's been very successful since its beginning last year, and the first one this year was kind of a surprise. We thought it was going to rain. We were all prepared to have it here in the lobby of the building, and the sun came out, and outside it was. So, and it was well attended. So, get some fresh produce from our local farms, and some things like honey and hot sauce, and there's also a farm that has meat products. So, come on out. And then the other is also this Saturday, going to be a busy day here in the municipal complex. Household Hazardous Waste Day here in our parking lot, being sponsored by Somerset County. If you have items in your house that you need to get rid of, but you can't put them in the trash, like things like latex and oil-based paints, oil, car batteries, propane tanks, you can bring them here, and the Somerset County Public Works Department will be here to take them away for you. Pesticides, all those bad things that you want to get rid of that you have in your house and you can't throw in the trash. If you have any questions as to what it is that you can and can't have, there's a link on our website to the county website. Then there's also a phone number for the Somerset County Road Department, who sponsors this event. And this event is, like I said, on Saturday, and let me just give you the times here. It is, right, you believe that? It's not right here. It is Saturday. No, it's June 16th, Saturday, and I believe it begins at 10 a.m.
Until when?
Until all of the people get rid of their garbage. They'll be here until, if there's a line, they'll be here until there's, and I don't have it, Mr. Mayor. It's not on the press release that the county gave us. So.
Will they come to the weddings I'm giving?
They will. Are they hazardous?
They can be.
They can be. They can be caustic, I believe is the correct word. But yes, so that's it. And there's a phone number for the county road department. 9 to 2. Thank you, Councilman. 9 to 2. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I forgot to make one more announcement. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for reminding me. So the Week of the People on Saturday, they're having a classic pre-Father's Day concert over at the high school. And doors open up at 6. The show starts at 7. The cost of admission is $30. They're going to have the Blue Notes there, a lot of oldie but goodie acts, and certainly if you need something to do on Saturday night, this upcoming Saturday night for Father's Day, come on out for the concert. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I had no comments because I felt Mr. Wright said it all. We are now on to approval of the minutes. I present the following minutes for approval by Township Council. We have a budget meeting on February 20th, 2018 at 7 p.m. And then on May 22nd, 2018, we have the work session regular meeting and the executive session. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any corrections, Mr. Chase? Or anyone else? Corrections on the minutes? No. Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Approval of the warrants in the amount of $4,200,719.51 on June 13th, 2018 are presented to the Township Council for payment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And second, any discussion, questions? The warrants are the bills we pay. Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
We're now on to ordinances on introduction and first reading. Ordinance 4237-18, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 192, Flood Damage Prevention, Section 192-13, Designation of Local Administrator, and Section 192-14, Duties and Responsibilities of the Administrator. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council excuse me, for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing for final adoption on Tuesday, June 26, 2018 at 7 p.m. at the municipal complex. Do we have a motion?
Motion to introduce.
Seconded. Moved and seconded. So this is, well, I guess it's a little bit more than paperwork. This was generated from outside of the township. The rules are changing on who is the designee, and it's changing from the zoning officer to the township engineer, and we are just in compliance with that change in law. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Ordinance 4238-18, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Code Chapter 85, false alarms, Section 85-7, false alarms. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, and publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, June 26, 2018, at 7 p.m. at the municipal complex. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
So this is about burglar alarms, not fire alarms. Currently, when you have one go off enough times, you have to come in to court to pay your fine. This is allowing you to wait until, well, you are not, you are still required to pay the fines for false alarms once they accumulate, but not come to court until your 8th time in 1 year. This was put forward by the police requesting it, and so it's a little bit, it's better for them because they don't have to come in as much, but it's a little bit more lenient to our citizens. Do you have any other discussion on this? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
We are now on to the consent agenda. Items A through U, as listed in the consent agenda portion of this meeting, are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have
Second.
a second? I have a motion and a second. Does anyone wish to discuss any item, pull any item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir, Mr. Wright.
If the township this is Ask the Manager section. I have questions on number J, Resolution 18230, supporting the New Jersey Department of Transportation Chapel Drive Bridge over the Delaware and Raritan Canal, entrance to the former Zarephath Bible Institute, structure number 3000-167 in the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, New Jersey.
Oh, there we go. Staff met with the representatives of the Department of Transportation in reference to the bridge that crosses over the DNR Canal from Weston Canal Road to the Pillar of Fire Community in Zarephath section of the township. The bridge is deficient. It's been listed by the state as a deficient bridge. It's in need of repair, and actually it's in need of replacement. This resolution would, the council would endorse the DOT moving forward with the project to replace the bridge. They're working closely with the Pillar of Fire community to ensure that the replacement of the bridge won't be a disruption to the people who live on the other side. And there is another alternative dirt road access for emergency purposes during construction if needed.
That we're looking at down the road.
That's probably another 2 years out before the bridge is replaced. Now, once the council will adopt this resolution tonight, it'll be sent to the Department of Transportation, and in the meantime, the engineering work has already begun, and then it'll be included in probably next year's capital projects for the Department of Transportation.
Okay, thank you. And
It would be nice if the DOT and the Water Supply Authority could coordinate so that the water supply's dredging took place at, the dredge passed through at the time the bridge wasn't there. It would.
This is further north of the dredge. There is no dredge program currently.
That's true. That's true. This is below, downstream from East Millstone. Sorry.
And I have one more question for the manager. Resolution 18241, amend Resolution 18198, first student, MC 00116-R1, Recreation Community Resource Programs and Event Bus Transportation, an additional $4,700. Amend contract not to exceed $37,400 for the first year of contract.
Okay, so the original resolution, which you adopted, I think about a month ago, was 18-198. That was an awarded contract to First Student to provide bus transportation for summer programs for those children involved in the recreation programs in the township over the summer. This is adding $7,400 to that contract to allow for transportation for summer programs from community resources, social services summer programs. Rather than award two contracts, we just added money to this first contract to allow for both departments to utilize the same contract.
So that would mean going to the park, taking them to the
They do a number of they take them to the movie theater, they take them to different parks, and there's programs throughout the summer, and this is the transportation for those programs.
Worthwhile project. We need to take our kids somewhere and.
Absolutely. And these are parent paid for trips that the Recreation Department provides the transportation, so this money comes from the Recreation Trust Fund, and it's offset by fees that are collected.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
So Councilman Wright, or actually Mr. Chase, reminded me about the dredging. They have begun work with the dredging, and I happened up the driveway to the dewatering site, and I met with some people up there, and we decided that August 11th would be a good time that if members of the community wish to tour the dewatering site, they could arrange for a tour. So you'll start seeing more about that on our website. I'll start announcing more about that. I will join the tour. It won't be very long, but it is kind of an impressive site up there, and I thought people, rather than wondering what's up that gravel road, would be able to get to see it, and it might be educational. We are now on to item number 15, resolutions voted on separately. Resolution 18242, award bid Franklin Township SCADA upgrade. Optimum Controls Corporation, amount not to exceed $656,377 is hereby presented to the Township Council for consideration. Do we have a motion on the SCADA upgrade?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Chase, did you have an comment?
No?
Okay. Anyone have a comment, discussion item, issue? No. Oh, wait. Yes.
Just a question to
Yes, sir.
the manager. This
Yes.
is the SCADA upgrade we've been talking about that'll save us a lot of money.
It is. It's
And
the
mixing
remote,
of the right mix of.
remote control for the
right.
water system.
Right.
That's correct.
So that's been in the budget for a long time. It's just coming
It's
through.
been in the budget in various forms and various components of it, and it's
Right.
not a one-piece project, it's a staged project. So this is just another stage in that project.
Right. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
And then, and by the way, these are, the reason we're voting on these separately is because they came onto the agenda after it was distributed to council, so so as not to sneak them by council, we are voting on them separately. Resolution 18243, award bid Valleywood Drive Area Resurfacing Project, MECO, not to exceed $431,468.50 is hereby presented to the Township Council for consideration. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Old business, boards, commissions, committee vacancies. Does anyone have a nomination? Hearing and seeing none, we're moving on to executive session. This is the part of the meeting where I announce what we're going to talk about in secret, but I completely explain everything we're going to talk about. Resolution 18244, authorized executive session litigation. Excuse me. Litigation, Hobson, acquisition of property, litigation for Hobson and acquisition of property, Block 8, lots 18.10 and 18.11, 101 Georgetown Road, 86 County Route 518, is presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion on going into executive session?
I'd just point out that, the term acquisition is used, but this is actually just buying the development rights.
Mr. Wright, Mr. Wright?
Executive.
Thank you. Okay, so at this time, the Township Council will adjourn to executive session to discuss the items
We need to
mentioned. Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. I was so flustered. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes, and my ears are burning.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes, burning.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, the Township Council will adjourn to the executive session to discuss the above-mentioned items. So unfortunately, videographer, there may be actions taken afterwards, so I'm going to ask you to stay, and you can record the end of the meeting this time. And so we're now adjourning to public session, and in case we do not come back onto, if we don't come onto camera, then there's no additional actions taken. And if that happens, I just want to say, be well, Franklin.